Hello, and welcome back to Educator.com's Introduction to PHP course. In today's lesson, we're going to be continuing development of our web store application. We're going to be adding sort of a bare-bones shopping cart that's going to make use of the arithmetic operators that we had learned about in the last lesson. So in today's lesson, we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to just quickly review what the last web application version was and the features that it had so we can see the changes that we're going to progress to. And then we're going to make two updates to our web app. We're going to have a version 5 and a version 5.1. So let's take a look at, this is web app version 4.1, which was the last version we'd worked at, and that's where we had added a checkout page where you can add your name and so forth and submit it, and it'll say thank you for submitting your information. And we also have the item.php that uses the query strings, so we have one page for all of our items. So that was kind of done in the last two versions. In this version, as mentioned, we're going to be adding a shopping cart page. And it's not going to be a full-blown shopping cart because we don't have all the tools to really do that yet. But it's going to be part of our process of building up to that. So we're going to make kind of a static shopping cart page, which is a page where you go and it lists all of the items in the store, and the user can select how many they want and then sort of click checkout. So what they're going to do is they're going to have a page where they can go and do that. And when they check out, it's going to forward the items they selected onto the checkout page, which before has the that's where we have the shipping information form and billing information form. And when it gets passed over to that page, it's going to calculate the total and output it at the top of the screen. So your total was this, and it's going to ask you to please enter your shipping and billing information. Also, so we're going to be altering the checkout page a little bit. In addition to creating a new page, the new page is going to be called viewcart.php. We're going to be altering checkout.php, as well as the footer and the CSS. And the footer, we're basically just updating to add a link to this view cart page. So let's take a look at what this new version looks like. This is version 5.0. And as you can see, we have the links at the bottom, and we have a new link down here. Everything else is the same, but we have a link view cart. And what it does is it lists all of the items in the store, their price, and then this is an HTML form that uses the get method to pass the variables or pass the input along to the next script. And basically what it allows you to do is set a quantity. So let's just say we want to get one of each of these. And we hit checkout. This script calculates our total. We alter checkout script so it calculates the total. It says your shopping cart total is this, and then it outputs the same form that we had before for example, to output your shipping information. So let's take a look at sort of what's going on behind the scenes in this shopping cart page. If we look at the HTML source, make this a little bigger. Basically what we've done is in the middle of the page, this is like the content section of the HTML page. We've added a title, and we've created a form, and the form uses the get method. It's going to pass the data entered, which is the quantity of items desired, to checkout.php, and basically this is just a table that sort of formats what this is going to look like. And as you can see, what it does is it basically has a row in the table for each item. And this HTML isn't the prettiest HTML because to do that with PHP, you kind of have to get fancy with new lines and tabs and so forth. So sometimes it doesn't always come out the nicest. But basically what it does is it creates a row in each table. One row in the table for each item. And so we have a row for item 1001. It basically lists, this is a link and an image to the items page, so you could click on 100% cotton t-shirt and it would take you to that page. It outputs the price, and then it outputs a text box that is where the user can enter the quantity that they want for that particular item. And what we're doing is we're using this array syntax again within the name attribute of the input text box. So we're creating an array. We're going to have PHP, when this form is submitted, create an array called items. And basically it's going to be an associative array the key of the array is going to be the item number. So for each item number, each item that we have, it's going to create a key and value in the items array, where the key is the item number, and then the value is going to be the quantity that the user selects. And so when the form is submitted, it basically is going to pass on to checkout.php. It's going to pass on each item, an array with each item ID is the key, and then as the value for that ID, it's going to have the quantity. So let's look at the PHP code behind this. This is the beginning of the form, which is just HTML. And down here is where this is for the first item, list item 1001. And what we've done is gone through and manually created a row of information for each item. And what we're going to learn as we progress in the course and learn about loops and stuff like that, we're going to be able to do this repetitively and only have to write this code once. But because we're not there yet, we've gone and manually output the information for each item. And this is how it looks. Basically, for item 1001, we set the current ID of the item, or we set a variable called current ID. So for this one, we're going to output the data for item 1001. Then we load the associative array that contains all that item's information from the item catalog, which is in our include file, catalog.php. So we're saying from the item catalog, give me the associative array associated with ID 1001, and store it in current item. And just to make things easier, we're going to create some short versions for the different variables that we're going to, or the different values that we're going to pull from that items array. So we're going to get the name, the price, and the image file extension, and we're going to store them in these variables: cur name, cur price, and cur ext, to represent those three things. Then, if we look at the page, we can see there's three columns, and the first one is a small picture of the item and a link, and then the price and the quantity box. So the first thing we're going to do is output this image and link, and that's what this section of code does down here. Basically, in PHP code, we have a bunch of echo statements, and they're outputting the link to the item page. And actually, we have it set up so that you can click on the image or the item's name to go to the item page. And basically, the way that works is using get query strings. Just like on our homepage, store.php, we had updated to use query strings to go to look up different items. So it's be item.php item ID equals 1001. Well, that's how we're going to do that here. We're going to do the same thing, except we're going to create them dynamically. So we're going to output using double quoted strings, item.php, a question mark, and we're going to say item ID equals. And then if you notice here, we have our concatenation operator, which we had just learned about as well. And to this, we're going to concatenate the current item ID, which would be 1001, and we're going to URL encode it. And as mentioned in the last web application lesson, we didn't use URL encode function before because we were hard coding the value and we knew that it was a safe value. But typically, anytime you're going to be outputting variables that may come from other sources, maybe comes from other functions other people have written if you're programming on a team, for example, this will ensure that anything that gets output will be output appropriately. So that's just kind of good practice. So it's going to output the item ID, so that's going to create the link to the items page. Here we have an image tag where we're dynamically creating the image name, and the image name for each item is the items ID with the image extension as the end of it. So it'd be like 1001.jpg. And then down here we just so that things look neater, we separated the links out. We made one link around the image tag, and then we also created a separate link just for the name. So if we look at the body of this link tag, it's current name. So this would be the body of that link tag, and then this image is it's a link as well as an image. So then in the next column over in the table, we're going to output the current price, and then the key part is we're going to then create a text box. And as mentioned, we're going to, as we saw, we're going to use the name attribute to create an array, or to have PHP create an array when the form's submitted. So it's going to create an array called items, and we can see the square bracket notation. And what we're doing is we're dynamically inserting the current item ID instead of hard coding it in there. We already have it listed up here on the top of our file, so and that's the point of the variable, is so that we can refer to it all at once, and if we need to change it, we only change it in one spot. We could just hard code in here like this, erase this and just do 1001, but then every time we have to change the item on the page, we have to go through and manually edit it. This way we can change things in one spot. So that's another example of code reuse. So that outputs a text box with a quantity, and we set it up with an initial value of 0. And we repeat this process 3 times for item 1002 and item 1003, so it creates 3 rows in the table. And again, we did this manually because we don't know about loops and things so far in the course. But later on, we're going to be able to sort of automate this, where we can write this code once, and it'll loop through 3 times for each item number. We don't actually have 3 sections of code, and that's good because since I've typed this section of code in here 3 times, there's 3 chances for me to make a mistake again. So that's another important thing that we'll get to about code reuse is, especially if you have something that recurs over and over, you only want to have to write it one time. So that's what the shopping cart looks like. And as mentioned, when we go to checkout, it forwards, you can see at the top of the page in the URL, it has the items array listed as name value pairs. It has items 1001 equals 1, items 1002 equals 1. Those are the quantities we selected. And so checkout has changed. Before, when we went to checkout, it just showed the form. This was in the last version. Now, when we go to checkout from view cart, it's going to have a little message that's going to say what the shopping cart total was. So let's look at checkout.php, which has been changed, because we're going to be doing the calculations for the shopping cart in there. So the first thing we do is in our page, all our pages, we include the catalog. And then we're going to create a short variable for the items array that was passed from the view cart form, which again was, it has one entry, a key entry for each item ID, and then the corresponding value to that key is the quantity selected by the user. So this items is an associative array with ID as the key and the value being the quantity chosen. Now we're going to make use of these arithmetic functions that we learned about. So we're going to start off with a variable called current total, which is going to represent the current total. And we're going to set it to 0. And you should always initialize your variables to a default value. And in this case, because we want our total to start off as 0, and we're going to add up to it as we add items to it, we give it the value 0. And then here we have 3 steps where we manually go through and take the pull the price for the item that was selected, for example 1001, out of the item catalog. We look it up in item catalog, pull its price out, and then multiply it times the quantity the user entered. So as you can see, for item 1001, we go to the item catalog array in catalog.php. We select the 1001 element, and then we select the price value from that. And then what we do is cart items is the short form of this get query that we had at the top of the screen, and we're going to say multiply it times the value associated with the key 1001, and as we had mentioned, the value associated with the keys in this cart items array is the quantity. So this is basically saying take the price of the item 1001, multiply it times the quantity that was chosen by the user, and then add it to the current total. And here we're making use of the combined assignment operator. So instead of doing cur total plus this equation right here and then setting it equal to cur total, we can just use the plus equals operator that automatically is going to take this right here, perform the operation and add it to current total. So basically this is updating current total. So now current total is going to be the amount of is going to reflect the amount of the first item on the list, item 1001, and how many, what quantity was chosen. And then we go through and do the same thing for item 1002 and 1003. We simply look up the price for each one and then multiply it times the quantity that the user selected on the form. And we use plus equals again, and what that's going to do is that keeps adding it to the last value of current total, so it adds up And once we get to the end of this line here, we're going to have the current total of the cart, which is the prices of all the items multiplied times the quantity selected, added together. Now what we've done is added a little message at the beginning here of checkout PHP, which wasn't on the last form, that just outputs the total that we had calculated. So we're just going to echo current total. And then after that, what it does, it goes and just lists the same shipping and billing form that we had before. And so that's where this little message is up here. This is the new message that's been added. So the calculation is done in checkout.php, and we've made use of our arithmetic functions. So that's version 5.0 of the store. We're also going to make, in this lesson, one more modification to the web store. We're going to call it version 5.1. And basically what we're going to do is, on the previous version, when you checked out, actually we can do it on this current version, we have our total that's been calculated from the view cart page, and then it brings us to the shipping page, and we enter our shipping information. And we go to complete order. It says, thank you, your order has been completed and will be shipped to. What would be nice is, when you're done from your order and you've completed the order, you'd like to see the final total again. I mean, typically when you go to a website, you say thank you for your order, and then they show you a total. So we're going to make it so that we can output the total on this thank you page as well. So in version 5.1, what we're going to do is when we view our cart, let's add an item to it, check out. Here's the total being output, and then now when we do complete order and we go to the thank you page, it's going to say the same thing, thank you, it's been shipped to the address we entered, but it's also going to say your order has been completed with the final total of $644.98. And what that does is we're going to use a technique of hidden input fields in order to pass. Basically what we're doing is receiving the total on checkout.php, and we're going to forward it along to thank you. So in version 5.1, as I said, we're going to add a hidden input field to checkout.php, and that's going to take that total that was calculated at the top of checkout.php, and it's going to forward it on to the thank you page. When the user submits basically the shipping form, when they enter in their name and their address, it's going to also forward along the total, and then that way thankyou.php has access to that variable. So we're going to make modifications to both checkout.php and thankyou.php. Let me pull up the 5.1 version. So version 5.1, we're going to look at checkout and thank you. So basically on the checkout page, it's all the same as in the last version, except at the very bottom of the shipping form, we add a hidden input field. We're going to name it, we decided to name it order total. And then what we're going to do is the value current total that was calculated all the way up here at the beginning on these lines, and we're going to forward it on, and the way to do that is through this hidden form. So we have basically when we submit the user submits this shipping form, it's going to submit a name value pair where the name is order total and the value is going to be the current total that was calculated. And so then thank you on the other side, the thankyou.php has on the other side has to be ready to accept that total, or it to be able to print it out. And so what we have done is created a short variable where we get the value associated with order total, with the order total name that was the name of the hidden input tag, and in this case it's going to be the total value that was calculated. We're going to set it into this variable order total just as a shorter version instead of using this longer get version. And now we have changed the output message a little bit and says your order has completed with the final total of, and we output the order total. And then the rest of it is just outputting the address just as before. And so basically what that's done is that's a common technique that you can use to forward when you have a basically a form or a process of forms where data is going from one form to the next. Sometimes you need to pass that information along. Because HTTP is a stateless protocol and it doesn't know about what happened before, you can continue to pass things along by using hidden input fields. So basically for the homework challenge, just want you to look over the arithmetic operations that we did at the beginning of Checkout PHP, so you can see the use of the combined assignment operator and the multiplication operator, and just make sure that you understand what's going on in the material from the last lesson. You can kind of see it in action. And then also make sure you understand how the hidden input element can be used to forward input data from that's received at one script and then to forward it on to another. So you kind of have a chain of events, because we go from view cart to checkout PHP to thankyou.php, and we can pass that order total along. So that ends today's lesson. Thanks for watching educator.com. Look forward to seeing you at the next lesson.